5 tips to instantly improve your bird photography. Let's go! Let's start off with a bonus tip, and that's of course to watch some more videos right on this channel. I know they can provide you with an invaluable insight into what it takes to take amazing bird images and how you can improve your own bird photography. And while you're at it, if you haven't done so already, hit that subscribe button right down there. I would really appreciate it. And if you want an even deeper insight into bird photography, check out my ebooks and videos that are linked for you down there in the description, like my masterclass on bird photography image editing, where I take you with me behind the computer and take you step by step through the editing process and show you how you can make your images look absolutely amazing. And also check out my ebook, How to Attract Amazing Birds, where I show you exactly how you get the birds to land where you want them to land. And don't we all want that? So check this out. And we are on to tip number 1. Tip 1 is put yourself in a position to succeed. I'm getting a lot of comments where people ask, but what if you were in a really dark rainforest with cluttered backgrounds and a lens that you can't really shoot wide open and a camera that can't handle high ISO? The simple answer is, I wouldn't put myself in that position. If I wanted to get that forest bird, I would actually try and do a lot of research, trying to look for different spots where people have seen this bird, go to some of these locations, visit them, and eventually I will find a location where this bird can actually be accessed without being really dark and really cluttered. One good example would be an eastern whipbird. It's a very secretive bird that many people hear, but it's very hard to see. It's usually right amongst the bushes, in the clutter, in the midst of a dark rainforest. So instead of just trying to chase the bird through the rainforest and not being very successful, I actually looked for locations and eventually found a spot where I could get that bird out in the open with a nice background and decent enough light to get some nice images. In talking about this planning process, this is what I mean by putting yourself in a position to succeed. So rather than chasing impossible birds, I would highly recommend that you get out there and learn about the birds that are right near around you. And how can you find these spots and these birds? Through eBird, through Facebook groups, or simply seeing what locations people post on the internet and then going to these locations and checking them out yourself. And you will be amazed what sort of incredible photographs you can get right at your doorsteps. The birds I'm usually recommending to people when they start out and they just want to see some amazing birds near their house is ducks and shorebirds. Every single city I've ever been to has some fantastic duck ponds where people sometimes feed the birds, so they're used to people. You can just lie nice and low down on the shore, have the sun behind you and get some fantastic images of beautiful ducks just swimming past you. The same is true for shorebirds. Find a beach where they hang out and you will see the birds just at the beach, so you can go there, and if you lie down there low and just wait, the birds will come incredibly close to you and you will get some fantastic images. So my recommendation would be, instead of chasing the impossible bird, often look for what's around you, do your research and then get the birds that you can actually get and get some amazing images of them. And doing it that way will also make it so much easier for you to have these successful moments where you just get fantastic images. Because if you're just out in a dark rainforest chasing birds, not getting the images you want, it can be quite frustrating, and that's just not something that I would recommend. So get yourself in a position to succeed. Tip 2 is plan your photographs. The degree of planning will be different for everyone, but I think it's important that we actually think about what we want to do before we take our images. Sometimes we're just happy to walk around, document what we see in the field, but other times we want to show a certain bird behavior or create some creative shots or just simply show the bird in a certain way. And I think thinking about these things is very important to actually achieve the results that we really want. Personally, when I'm out and about, I'm always looking for that one perfect bird shot of that bird on a really nice perch in a perfect pose with nice eye contact and beautiful vibrant colors. But that's just me. You might look for something completely different. But I think what's important is that we actually know what we're looking for, because otherwise we often just take pictures in the field and then we come home and we're not quite happy with them because we didn't really think about what we wanted to get out of the shots while we were in the field. Personally, I like to do setups where I find a nice background, set up a nice perch in a great spot, and then try to attract the bird to come to that perch. That obviously involves a lot of planning, but you don't have to go through all that length. Even when you're just walking around, thinking about and planning your shot can be very important. For instance, you have a bird sitting in a tree next to you, and instead of just taking the shot right away, think about what else can I do? Could I step to the left? Could I step to the right? To maybe get a better background behind the bird, to get more at eye level with the bird. If I go down a little bit, could I get a better angle on the bird? These things are very important to think of when you're in the field. Or sometimes you might have a bird that's sitting in the middle of the bush and eat and eat and eat, and you just can't get a nice shot. But sometimes you can see there's like a nice exposed branch kind of coming out of the bush with a nice background. And often when you wait long enough, the birds will actually make their way to that branch. So simply by seeing that opportunity and planning your shot, you can set yourself up in a good spot, and eventually when the bird actually ventures out to that nice perch, you can then get the shots that you really wanted rather than getting the bird just in the middle of the tree. Another way of planning your shots can be realizing that the bird in the middle of the tree just doesn't look quite right, but there might be a little gap where you can actually get a nice headshot. So you can go a bit closer or put an extender on, zoom in a little bit, and get a nice tight portrait that looks amazing, whereas the whole bird didn't look quite right. So really exercise thinking about your images and planning what you're doing is very important and will dramatically improve your bird photography. We just talked about ducks and shorebirds in tip number 1, and I think planning your shot with these birds is very important as well. If you're at a duck pond, you can usually see a pattern where the ducks swim like in a circle, always hang out in a certain spot, or there's one spot of really pretty looking nice blue water. So I would set myself up right in that spot and wait for the ducks to swim right to that perfect spot, and trust me, on these ponds they usually swim all over the place, so you will get that shot eventually. Whereas if you're just around trying to shoot the birds where they are in that current moment, you might not get the shot that will look amazing in the end. Same with shorebirds and the ducks. It's very important that you're at eye level with the birds. If you're just standing up looking down on them, it doesn't look quite right. But if you plan your shot lying down nice and low, waiting for the birds to come to you, you will end up with some amazing images. Tip number 3 is don't shoot in the middle of the day. You might say, yes, I know the light's very contrasty and there's shadow, but in reality the main reason you don't want to shoot in the middle of the day is heat haze. What's heat haze? It's just that flimmering, flickering hot air you can see coming off the ground sometimes, and even on cold days, sometimes when the sun comes out, you just get that heat haze coming up, and it makes your images out of focus, makes it hard for your camera to focus, and there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. If there's heat haze, all you can do is go home, come back when the light is a bit lower and it's a bit cooler. So when you get out and you get not sharp images during the middle of the day, one of the main reasons for that is heat haze. So yes, you can take pictures at all times of the day, but if you're out on the middle of the day, you just won't get pictures that look quite right, and a lot of times it will actually not be really sharp or in focus because of heat haze. You also get unpleasant shadows and too bright highlights on the bird. So all in all, I would really recommend to go out when the light is the best. Tip number 4, learn to anticipate bird behavior. Having a rough idea of what the bird might do next can put you at a great advantage when it comes to taking fantastic bird images. This might not be as instant as some of the other tips, but I think it's very important, so I've put it on this list. And how can you learn bird behavior? Well, simply by being out there and looking at the birds in the tree, or you might walk up to a bird and you can kind of see that the closer you get, the more aware it gets of your presence, and it might look up, it might raise its crest, or a lot of birds do a little poo before they take off. All these kind of things can be indicators for us to anticipate bird behavior and get the shots that we really want. Knowing and anticipating bird behavior has been crucial in getting a lot of my images. For instance, do you know when the best time is to photograph a cockatoo? Well, I do, and that's sometimes why I get the shots that other people don't get. Because with most cockatoos, the only good time to really get a shot with the crest up is right after they land, because they land, put their crest up like this, sit nice and upright, then they put their crest down, and they might not raise it for the rest of the day. So I know that whenever I photograph cockatoos, I have to be ready the moment they land, or I might not get the shot at all. Tip number 5 is mastering your exposure. You might say, are you going to say this in every video now, Jan? And I will, until most of you have actually mastered it. There's so many images I get sent, or people complaining about their cameras being so noisy, and when I look at the files I can see that they're simply so underexposed that there's no way to make them or get them into a really nice image during the editing process. If you're underexposing your images too much, you will introduce noise and unwanted color cast into the images, and also just make them difficult to edit. So what we need to learn is reading the histogram, understanding the histogram, and then exposing our images as far to the right as possible so we can get nice and bright raw files we can beautifully work with during the editing process and get amazing images out of them. If you have any questions about exposure and the histogram and how to master it, check out my video I've made on that. So hopefully, after watching this video and watching that video up there, you will know all about exposure, and I can stop talking about it and you have mastered it. So let's recap the 5 tips to instantly make you a better bird photographer. Tip number 1, put yourself in a position to succeed. Don't make it so hard on yourself. Don't go to a deep, dark forest and try to get a bird in the thick of the sticks with a cluttered background. Either find a way to get the bird in a better spot, or go to a spot where you can simply take some amazing bird images right at your doorstep. I know it's a fantastic feeling if you just go outside and you come back home with some beautiful images, and often it doesn't even matter whether it's a common bird or a rare bird. Simply that moment out in nature, close to your home, and getting some stunning images is all we want. It's just such a good feeling. Secondly, plan your shots. Make sure that you're thinking about what you're doing either before you're doing it or while you're doing. Don't just take a scene as it is. Move around, think about what can I do, or see what's the bird doing. Is it going to move out to a branch, or can I take a nice headshot? Do I have to go low to the ground to be eye level with the bird? Think about all these things. It will definitely improve your photography. Tip number 3, don't shoot in the middle of the day. Heat haze, harsh light and shadows will just ruin your shots. Number 4, learn to anticipate bird behavior. This is very important. If you know what the bird's going to do next, it dramatically increases your chances of getting the photo. And lastly, I've said it before, I will say it again, we have to learn the histogram and we have to master exposure. If we master exposure, our images will be so much better, they will be better to edit and will have so much less noise, so it's just so much nicer to work with them and to look at them. So I really hope you enjoyed today's video and that I could give you an insight and some more ideas how you can become better bird photographers. If you like what you've seen, subscribe to my channel, check out some of my other videos, give me a thumbs up, and I will see you very soon. Bye!